I spent my term holidays here. Home is the kind of place where, whilst the kettle boils, you start contemplating suicide. And if there are no biscuits in the house, then suddenly it becomes all a bit too real. So I prefer it here. There's a sheep outnumbered of people that doesn't get me. There's a church for the mornings and a takeaway for the evenings, but both stand there pretty fucking lonely. I used to sit by my bedroom window and watch the old farm gates swinging in the wind, opening and closing like an idiot mouse that had nothing to say. I used to wake up every morning and wish for the privilege of being able to say something has changed. Something has changed. Well, I suppose Dad did me that favour. In a way.
One time, my neighbour back home, well, she wasn't my next door neighbour, but we call everyone in the village neighbours, really. She got herself a Guinness World Record. Most wool shaved off a sheep in a single sitting. She had off tons of the stuff. And then the next year, she tried to top off her own record. But there was that countrywide heat wave, and the sheep died from overheating, whilst it was still, covered in wool. But not enough to beat the record.
Only time I've been jealous of a sheep. To achieve something
Unprecedented
in your field, if you'll pardon the pun, and then to die, to sleep. It's bliss. It's perfection.
My nan used to say, well, my granddad would ask her to clean, and she used to say, I will not die making your bed, and then they got divorced. So she died making another man's bed. Just flopped. Right onto the mattress cover. She was doing a shoddy job of it too.
A bit of heart, wasn't it?
According to belly even tucked in. So yeah,
I have considered suicide whilst the kettle boils.
There. Better way to go than Doddy or Nan. Some control over it,
I haven't achieved the great thing that comes before death, I guess. So you don't have to worry about me just yet. As I said, I spend my town holidays here usually, but not last year.
That is when Paul moved in. Stepdad. Nice guy. But Mum wanted me home to get to know him, lad on lad. And I love my mum, so I usually love her from afar and all that, but I go. Still. Paul does a pub quiz on Thursdays. Paul has done a pub quiz on Thursdays for the last 10 years. So Paul knows his shit, right? There's no denying that. Do not underestimate Paul. And no, I may be wondering, no, he didn't go to uni, but that doesn't matter. It was a different time back then. I know he was educated at the School of Life. So Paul knows his shit, right? There's no denying that. Do not underestimate Paul. Mum loves it when Paul and I we watch quiz shows together on the telly, and sometimes she hands us both a tinny, takes a picture of it, puts it on Facebook, because she's just so happy to have a family type thing. One time, Paul invited me along to his pub quiz. Me, the Cambridge Bonds. And we got there, and of course there is this big table of pools, as you'd expect. As I expected, and of course they all called me Morgan all night, as that's where I'm currently attending. Paul had galvanised them all for the banter before we got there. we all ordered burgers before the quiz began, and I usually go vegetarian, but I couldn't bring myself to in front of the lads, so my apologies to whichever cow Paul turned me against with toxic masculinity. And our plates and stuff arrive, and I'm getting called Maudlin. Finish your plate, Maudlin. Eat your greens. Tuck in the napkin, Maudlin. And I'm looking at Paul. And I'm looking at the steak knife. And I'm looking at Paul. And I'm looking at the steak knife. Paul eats more than is good for him. I hated that evening. Paul made me feel like Mary's sheep that had died in that field. Except not suffocated in war. Just like the robes of my education, my achievements, my qualifications. And here's the thing, I love knowledge. I read a lot. And there's the traveling. I think to be traveled is very important if you want to call yourself something innocent and pretentious, like a man of the world, which of course I do. Or rather, I'd like someone else to call me that. But what I mean to say, what I am coming around to say is, has Paul really earned it? I mean, is his kind of knowledge really the same? I've put effort, I've put constrained effort into knowing what I know. It is practiced and perfected, but he has just sort of lazily been drip-fed it through pub quiz and TV show question after question. He doesn't even write anything down. Just sort of absorbs it. Lets it bloat him up like his beers do over the years until he is this big, oozy man of beer and football teams and 70s TV show characters. Like, he doesn't even read. He doesn't even watch the news, for Christ's sake. Week after that, it comes down to a tiebreaker. Paul usually handles these. He doesn't crack under that swift pressure because he genuinely doesn't give a shit about most situations. Mum's enjoying herself. She's smiling, tucking her hair behind her ear when Paul looks at her. She never did that with Dad.
These sorts of tiebreaker questions are usually closest to questions, where the answer is a number and you have to guess closest to that number. Like, how many countries were in the European Union in 2020, for example? In case you're wondering, it's 28. But you should probably know that. Just saying. But then the quizmaster asks that night's question. How many plays did Shakespeare write? And everyone looks at me instead of Paul. And I don't panic, because I know the answer.
In fact, I know the real answer.
The one the quizmaster won't even realise.
Because canonically Shakespeare wrote 37 plays, but actually he wrote 39. It's just the two containing edits and extracts from other playwrights, Thomas Kidd and John Fletcher, but in the academic world they are still considered to be a part of Shakespeare's body of work. So, I am going up to the bar where the quizmaster is holding the mic and I am ready to say 37 when I catch Paul's eye and I stop. I'm looking at Paul and he is now looking at me in this concerned way, as if he knows the answer is around 38 and now he's worried I'll lose out. But I never even thought Paul would think that Shakespeare had written more than the 3 plays I presumed Paul could name. So, well, maybe Paul knows more than I presumed of him. And maybe he even knows that the answer is 39 and not 37. And maybe everyone in the pub knows it, and they're all looking at me in my brogues and shirt and thinking, fuck, does this kid not even know about Edward III and the 2 noble kinsmen? What a prat. But it is between 37 and 39. Between underestimating them, as I always have, or assuming that they know just as much as I do. So I say 39. And I get it wrong. The other guy, Dave, got the closest to answer with 38. because the answer they were looking for was 37. They get back to the table, and Paul and Mum are looking sullen. Mum says she thought I knew these kinds of things. Look, I wanted to tell her that I do. That the answer is really 39, not 37, and everyone, apart from the quizmaster and Paul and even Dave, were the wrong ones, and I am the clever one, just like that, and she should believe me because the answer is 39. But I didn't. We all just waddled home. I spent my time holidays here. I just prefer it.